Hey everybody. So, weird mood today. Don't know. It's a weird mood. Up and down, constantly throughout the day. Probably because been looking at a hell of a lot of different things that's related to my interests, and obviously then uh, I'm a, as you guys probably know already, I'm a very emotionally invested person when it comes to certain things. So, like, yeah, I've been looking at various different stuff and looking around at different things, and yeah, so weird mood today. So bear with me. But today's was some interesting content that was released. We had Mark Boucher's arrival press conference. Something that we, something that we can really talk about and dive into. It's quite lengthy, so you guys are going to bear with me, but I want to do a watch along with you. So I haven't watched the entire press conference. Um, I skimmed through it so that I can find clips that I can post. I actually was made aware about a specific clip that I could post online, which was regarding Temba Bavuma specifically. So I know that it's somewhere here in the actual press conference. I never actually watched the entire thing as a whole, so I'm going to be watching it with you guys and reacting live. I'm waiting for two guests to join us as well, so that we can get this discussion going. Um, but it's going to be a very interesting discussion. I think I'm hoping that Boucher says some things that answers the questions that we've all had. Um, but let's see what happens. Let's see what he has to say on today's show. And yeah, let's react to this press conference together. I've asked the panelists as well that will be joining me not to look at the as well, but it's very difficult to stay away from all the content. There's obviously articles that were written from this press conference using quotes. We also did the same thing. So those clips are the only clips that I actually saw, the ones that we did the article on. So I'm not going to be reacting raw to that necessarily, but maybe the other guys will be. But we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see what Boucher had to say in the press conference. But before we get going, before we get started, please subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to smash that like button, comment, share, and subscribe. And also make sure that you do share this with everybody and as many videos as you can with everybody so that we can grow this channel. Um, Another thing is become a Patreon today. A link is on the screen as well as in the description. And also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free straight to your inbox every single month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. You can also contribute with a PayPal if you want to give me a little present or something if you feel like it. PayPal link is in the description as well. And to guys out there that are, if you know any salespeople or people that are into sales and know how to do sales, etc., we are looking for people that can work on a commission basis to sell advertising for us, etc., and advertising space and get our sponsors, etc. So email me your CV and your contact details. You guys do know the email address, but I will put it up on the screen quickly for you. Do I have it here? I'm sure I do. Yes, you can email us at cricketfanaticsmag@gmail.com. Email us the details and we can get into a discussion with you to see if you fit and we fit each other. And see if it works. And if we can work together and do some amazing things with Cricket Fanatics magazine. The platform is set up. The platform is there. Now we just need to capitalize on it, guys. We need to start doing things so that we can constantly improve. But without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to reacting to Mark Boucher's press conference and bringing on the panelists as well to discuss the different points. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host Khalid. This is my co-host Werner, and we're waiting for our DHL to come through. And this is where we discuss everything that has to do with the press conference between Mark Boucher and the media. I don't know why I said between, but I thought I warned everybody, Werner, before the show. I said I'm in a weird mood today. Up and down constantly throughout the day. My emotions have been all up and down throughout the day. So it's weird. I'm in a weird space today. But First and foremost, Werner, before we get going, how are you doing? How's things going your side? You good?
All good, all good. I haven't seen anything of the conference, the press conference. I've only seen the headlines, so I will go in pretty raw, which is, I guess, ideal tonight. So
Yeah,
good thing.
uh, good thing. Yeah, I'm surprised that you haven't because I know you always on top of everything, and I obviously gave you the instruction that I was hoping that you would keep it. So it's good to know that you that you are going to into this without seeing much. I mean, I've only seen two clips of it. The clips that we used to do the story on Cricket Fanatics magazine. So for those, I won't be. But let's get going. We'll bring in Aditya a little later when he does come onto the show. But let's start this. Is there anything else that you've seen in the news that you want to maybe from a South African perspective that you can maybe tell us something interesting that you maybe seen on social media?
Not really today, to be honest. I think it's mostly been articles about the press conference. I haven't seen anything in particular. So just farewells from Sipakazi.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a clip actually. The last clip of it is actually I clipped that out too. Which is a small clip from Sipakazi that I put on social media. So I hope I don't tear up when that happens, because I mean Sipakazi's done so much for me as a journalist in this industry since I came in. It was funny actually. We kind of I wouldn't say we grew together because she was already in the industry already, but from that I was along with her with that journey from East Under 19 women's then up into the Proteas side. So I know her for a long time now, and when I was a new up and coming journalist in the industry as well, first time in the job, she really helped me out a lot to find my feet. We used to graph together at the at St. Stithians actually. When the Kaimajolo week was there, and we used to sit together and type out things. So there's a lot of good memories that I can share about Superkazi, and I'm really going to miss her. And I'm sure everybody that knows her and knew her or knows her in this industry will miss her too. And yeah, all the best. I think she's going to smash that job. She was meant to do great things. So I really wish her all the best, and I hope that that happens. But let's get into the press conference first and foremost. Let's discuss Mr. Boucher, as
Thanks,
been
Buckle.
referred
Sorry
to.
about that. Hi, Mark. Just wanted to find out. I mean, there's 5 T20 internationals left until the T20 World Cup in Australia later this year. How would you assess the progress made so far, particularly in the India series? And of course, it's unfortunate for it not to be concluded in the way that everybody probably expected it to go all the 5 matches. But what is your assessment of the team's progress, particularly with a couple of key options and combinations going forward into the last 5 T20 internationals and heading into the World Cup?
Firstly, there's more than 5. There's, my knowledge is right, 10 games, and that's including some warm-up games as well. So there's quite a few more than 5 left. Yeah, look, I think if we have a look at this series as a whole, it's not played in the same conditions as what we're going to get in Australia. I think that there's certain levels of confidence that you can take from all these sort of series. But if we have a look at our team and the makeup of our team, it would probably be a little bit different going into a World Cup, especially in completely different conditions. So yeah, I think there's a bit of confidence that you can take from it. We tried out 1 or 2 things. I suppose we asked a few questions, and I think we got a couple of answers about possibilities that we can have going forward. But I guess, once we start playing in conditions that are probably going to be a little bit more similar to Australia, then we can start to really sort of delve into different tactics and all that type of stuff as well. We, as coaches, we've certainly started thinking along those lines. But the players, at the moment, they're playing each series as it comes, and we'll make adjustments according to the conditions that will suit the World Cup.
Okay. Exactly what I thought, Werner, in answering that question. But do you throw those warm-up games in as relevant with regards to what he's trying to say? Um, yes, it does get you ready, but for me, I think the team is nowhere near ready for warm-up games. Like, I mean, we still need to figure out a couple of things. So he's obviously saying they'll pick according to conditions, etc. But to me, from the vibes that I've got, this seems to be the team. No matter, this seems to be the team that they probably will select. The squad, at least, seems to be quite the actual squad that they'll probably pick, even regardless of the conditions. What is your thoughts on this first part? It's not necessarily anything that was wow that he said, really.
Yeah, he didn't really say much, to be honest, in
Yeah.
terms of that question, saying that one or two things they figured out and so forth, but he hasn't really elaborated on it. I also think the squad is probably near to what it will be during the World Cup. We'll see. I suspect there's a chance that we might still get a couple of more games against India, just because we should have played T20s against them here at home. It was scheduled originally, but then it was postponed. Um, so there's a small chance we might still get a couple of T20s scheduled against them just ahead of the World Cup. So
Mm,
maybe that's something that Mark already knows about, and maybe he's
mm.
taking that into consideration as well.
Yeah, I think he is. But Clint, I mean, it's crazy because it's almost like India's going to know they're in a group. They're going to know everything about South Africa by the time they get to the World Cup.
It's all right. We'll know everything about them as well.
Yeah, true. That's true. It works both ways. I just think that they've got more available to them to combat what we have. I don't think we're not as lucky to have a squad almost of 30. You know.
Yeah, no, they definitely do have greater depth, and I think that's mostly thanks to the IPL. And they in the last year they've played a few series where they've played multiple series at the same, or two series at the
Yeah.
same time, where they will have the Test squad playing the one, and then they'll have a separate squad for the T20. So they have an immense amount of depth in
Mm,
their squad. So they definitely do have that on us. We're going to have to be lucky, hopefully to have all our guys fit, because if we lose, let's say Quinny and Markram, and hopefully not, but Rabada ahead of the World Cup, what are we going to do? But if India lose a few of their key guys, they have guys that can slot in perfectly, who will do a similar type of role, and I don't think we necessarily have those exact type of backups at the moment.
mm. Well, at least we can't have an excuse and say we haven't seen these players and the other players, the second string players, and we don't know how to play against them, like Dale Pinkerton said so many years ago. But let's move on.
Good day. Good day. Thank you, Sporazi. Good day, Mark. With your upcoming series with England and Ireland, should we expect any changes to the original squads? There are guys like Riley Rousseau who have been performing, or even a Devil Brevis, perhaps, especially in the lead up to the World T20s.
I think the best position we're in is quite a good one. We've got quite a lot of depth to choose from. You say you've got these players, and their names have certainly come up in selection meetings. I think I'll leave Victor to answer those questions on selection. That's his job. But certainly I think that it's good when different names start coming up. It shows a bit of depth in our system, which is always good for players. And yeah, those names will certainly come into the mix. I think it's just important as well is that you want to have a bit of continuity going into a World Cup. I think that showed how valuable it was the previous World Cup. So a little bit of continuity, and also unfortunately, there's only 11 cricketers in the team, and you've mentioned batters there, and there's only hopefully 6 batters that can play in a game. So in order to give opportunity, you got to leave 1 or 2 guys out, and that's the key on how to try to balance that and keep the continuity within the squad.
Of course, but that's part of being a coach of South Africa. Making those difficult decisions is what we expect Mark Boucher to do. And in my honest opinion over here, I don't think he's always made those difficult decisions. He's kind of made the easy ones. the safe options he's always picked. We discussed this in length, Werner, of possibly taking a risk, and obviously trying to play someone like maybe Stubbs in a team where you can get the best out of him. I mean, I was discussing this with another journalist friend of mine. We were discussing about possibly playing Tristan Stubbs. What about him playing at 3, for example? Then you're playing with that freedom. He can play with the same freedom that Dwayne Pretorius was allowed to play in. I'm sure that they didn't tell Dwayne Pretorius, bro, you need to go score runs right now. There's all the pressure's on you. I'm sure they told him, just go ahead, go hit the ball, just go smack it, play your natural game, and go out there and have fun. And they could have done that with the youngster too, and really try to understand and find that continuity within the team, because we need that number 6 position slot. Now, it's going to cause issues when Aiden comes back. We've struggled to fit everybody into a 6. You've spoken and flirted with the fact that maybe we should play another batter to bat a little deeper, because we haven't been really doing that lately. We've been playing our all-rounders at 6. So your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, we expect that from Mr. Boucher anyway. We expect him to make those difficult decisions for us.
Yeah, I feel like slotting Riley into the squad at least shouldn't be that difficult, because if I had to choose between Riley Rousseau and Riza Hendricks right now, I would choose Riley Rousseau. And the fact that he's so versatile, that if somebody else gets injured, let's say you don't even play him in the 11, right, and you have him in the squad, if somebody gets injured, he can slot in anywhere, whatever batter is injured. If it's an opener, he can slot in there. If it's a middle order batter, he can slot in there. And that's the advantage of having somebody like that. In terms of Stubbs, yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. I wouldn't mind seeing him shifted up there just to see him get an opportunity, but at the same time, I feel like he's like cut out a good role for himself as a finisher at the Warriors at 6, and I'd rather have us play Rossi at 3, because I still feel like he always takes a little bit of time to get going. So I feel like he shouldn't be coming in lower than 3, and then we can decide between Markram and Miller for number 4, dependent on how many overs are gone, what the situation is, and then still bring Stubbs in at 6, and then you can play 2 all-rounders. Still, I'd only play 1 spinner in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% then, and I wouldn't do Stubbs at 3 in the long run. But for that particular game where he decided to play like a pinch hitter type of guy, I mean, to go out there and play with the freedom is the same freedom that is expected of you when you're batting at 6. So you expect the guy to play free-flowing, play big shots, hit the ball out of the circle, etc., get the ball over the boundary. So I just think that they could have been smart with that way as well, because nobody would have thought of putting not a lot of people would have put a number 7 in at 3. Very seldom did you see that happen. So why? I mean, having Stubbs in the team, and he was in the team when they did that with Dwayne the first time. So I was like, but there could have been an option to, if you really wanted to test, because you know what certain players can give you. But then there's certain players that we don't know much about. So testing and trialing that he spoke about, I didn't see that much. I think he was forced into playing the 2 all-rounders because of the extra bowling option. Because he wants an extra bowling option. I don't think he would have played if Markram was available. I don't think we would have seen someone like Parnell play. I think they might not have played him. So it's interesting to see what Boucher thinks about this and what his assessment is. But let's continue with this. Let's hope that some juicy things come our way.
Alfred?
Thanks, Bukazi. How's it, Boucher, and welcome home.
Here we go.
How big a concern is Temba's T20 strike rate, and what can be done to improve that?
So yeah, I mean, look, Temba struggled on the tour. There's no doubt. But I think, as coaches, we sit down and we say, okay, well, why did he struggle? So first of all, he really struggled against one bowler, and that was Kumar. And most of the guys struggled against him as well. So let's give him credit where it's due. I think Kumar's a fantastic bowler, especially in those conditions. We look at the conditions that we played in. There were times where the ball was swinging a lot, which makes him very, very dangerous. Also, the ball was up and down quite a bit, especially with the new ball. So, we've sort of looked at it as coaches and say, how do we have a look at that particular bowler, and how do we give him more options? So we've spoken about it. It's quite difficult for him to change up during a series where you basically travel, play. He hasn't played a lot of cricket as well. So to come into a series, T20, opening the batting, you've got to get on with it, from the get-go. It was always going to be quite tough for them, especially against Kumar. Against other bowlers, his strike rates are fine. There's no issue there. So, yeah, there's no major concern from our side. He'll know that he wants to score better and quicker. I think if you look at the teams around the world, there's maybe one or two players in even your top sides that there's space for a guy who is more of I wouldn't say nudger nerdler. There's no space for a nudger nerdler in today's cricket, but certainly a guy who's sort of is a stabilizer in innings. And I think we sort of see him in that mold. His stats outside the power play are very good. He's got his way and means of playing the game, and he picks up boundaries in different ways to say a Rassie van der Dussen and an Aiden Markenwood. So, it's just the one little period of play and against one particular bowler that we need to work on. But we've got a plan with regards to that. And I've got no doubt Temba loves being challenged. We challenged him in the test match arena, and look how he's come through. So, we challenged him in this sort of way. He wants to work on his game. He wants to improve. And I've got no doubt that given a bit of time, that we can get onto a bowling machine and work on a couple of things, I've got no doubt that he'll come through. He's a tough little cricketer. He's a tough captain, and certainly someone that we do need in our team. So yeah, as coaches, we're going to be working extra hard to get him right against that particular bowling style.
Okay. Wow. I didn't expect that from Boucher necessarily. When I initially saw this particular clip, when I heard him answer the question, I wouldn't say it was shocked because I expect the coach to defend this player. But it's interesting to hear what he said and actually try to break it down that he struggled against Boovie. But yes, everybody struggled against Boovie. And I've mentioned before the moving ball is going to trouble quite a few of our openers. I don't think Temba's the only one that will struggle against Boovie. I think there's a lot of opening batters that can come into this mix. I'm talking about the backups now, not Riley Rousseau's and the Fafs of the world that we haven't spoken to even. But I'm talking about the next in lines like the Rizas, the Yanaman Malans, etc. I think they would have a similar issue. So the fact that he's identified that and said he's going to work on those things and try to teach the batters how to cope with that, I like that aspect of it. What I don't like about this, what he said here about Boucher for me personally, is that he hasn't necessarily explained with regards to like I try to do in my piece a little bit, is to show the difference between what he has done as an opener and when he's not batting as an opener. And he's now the first time we've actually heard him actually say that Boucher, that Bavuma is his opener. So at least we know now as a fan base that that's what he's seeing and what he thinks about Temba Bavuma. Because it doesn't matter what we think at the end of the day. We can say whatever we want, but it's about what Mark Boucher thinks. So he's now made it public that this is his thought process. He could have spoken around it. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, yes, but Boucher could have just said whatever he wanted to say. He has to say that because of XYZ, and he has to do this because of XYZ. So he believes that there's something in Boucher. I mean, in Bavuma. He believes that there's something in there to work with. I don't have the stats that he's talking about against other bowlers. He'll have that stats. Obviously, Gobind will put together proper in-depth.
Let me just see if I can. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but let's see.
Okay. Oh, okay. Awesome. Let me make it bigger for you. Let me make it bigger for you quickly. How do I do that? I'll have to go here. Oh fuck. How do I switch this? Wait 2 seconds. Sorry guys, this is a new thing. We haven't tried this. There we go. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So I just quickly ran through what his runs was against the different bowlers in the series, just to see if what Mark is saying is accurate. So yes, he did struggle by far the most against Kumar, and he also faced him the most. You can see
The
he
most.
went at a strike rate of about 50 against him. He did decently against Avish Khan, 20 or 15 balls. And then he didn't face a lot of the other bowlers because he didn't really get into the game that far because he got out fairly early into the innings in most of the cases. Just that one innings of 35 what he faced 30 balls, but then again he predominantly faced Kumar. So saying I don't know if I'll go as far as saying he was fine against the other bowlers. He was all right. But it's not like he excelled against any of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I wouldn't have, like, for me as the coach, what is happening here now, Philip? Let me just change this quickly. Can you come back again? This is the one I'm looking for. Thank you.
Sorry
Yeah,
about
so
that. I thought I'd just give it a go tonight with the stats.
no, go. No, I must learn how to do that. So keep on testing me like that because it teaches me about the platform. It makes the show a lot more interactive. Thanks a lot for sharing that. Actually, yeah, like I don't think that he should have like Bavuma performed poorly this series, and he admitted it, and he said that's true. But what I do like is that he gave some. Whether we agree with what he said or not, or whether we think it's possible or not, he did give reasons, or he did give us indications that there's ways to fix it. Temba's problems. Um, Now there is a part later on in the show that we'll get to that is important, but let's move on so long. Yeah, let's move on so long and see what else he had to say.
Leighton, and then Ken and Fido.
Hello, Mark. I've got two parts to this question. It's about the batting and bowling. Just in terms of shaking up the batting order, are you satisfied with how things went? It worked in a couple of the games, other games not. And then you persisted with the two spinners. Is that looking ahead towards the conditions that you are going to get overseas and just giving them game time, or what prompted that decision?
So no, the batting lineup is not what we wanted. Unfortunately, we lost Aiden before the first game. So that is quite a difficult or a big blow to us, especially the form that he's been in. And, I think he's rated second in the world in T20 cricket. So you're always going to struggle if you lose a player like that. So we had to just mix and match a bit, hence getting Dwayne up into the top order to try lengthen our low order a bit. Ideally, I don't want to go into any game with 5 batters. I'd like to play 6 batters. But when Aiden was left out of the squad or through illness and that, we lost our 6th bowling option as well, which, we played in the World Cup. We played our 6 batters and Aiden was our 6th bowling option and it proved the right way to go about it. We didn't have a similar sort of player in the setup in the squad in India to be able to do that. So that's why we moved it around a bit. We also saw the opportunity to maybe try one or two things, especially with Dwayne batting up the order. It's not like he's never done it before. He did it well for Paul Rocks. So we knew that he could do it. And he showed in the first game that he really came off. I think they sort of maybe learned how to bowl to him after that, but it would never be in a situation where we go out and we say that Dwayne's going to consistently be our number 3 batter. It's more just let's trial it out and see if maybe in one game it's possible going forward in the future. And yeah, I think we've got a few of the answers there. Sorry, your second question?
Before we get to the second question, I think it's very important we speak about that first and foremost. How's Aditya? Dwayne Pretorius, at least we know that it was an experiment and what we said is true. And we do know some of the things that we are speaking about, some of the stuff we know, what we're doing, what we're saying. For a game or so, it's good to bring in Dwayne, maybe if you're in trouble, whatever. But as a consistent number 3, no. But he does give us indication of what our top 6 is going to be now. I think it's pretty clear. It's going to be, we know Squinny, Temba, Rassi, Aiden, David Miller, and then Heinrich Klaassen probably. I'm thinking as a 6. And then they're probably going to play one all-rounder. And they're going to choose, obviously, between Dwayne Pretorius and Parnell. I doubt they'll play 7 and 8 an all-rounder. What is your thoughts on what he had to say about that? Because I'm actually happy with that particular segment of what he had to say. Aditya, you want to go first? Seeing that you have come now and you haven't said anything about the other stuff yet. So who had had the chance to.
Well, I think my question still remains that you've lost one player, but why has that disrupted your batting order that much? I think that's been my primary question throughout this series, and it still remains. Um, so I can understand that there was that need to sort of mix and match a little bit, and he wanted to lengthen the lower order, as you mentioned that. But I think that's still my question. Right? Like, if you lose an important player, fine, but you know, at any given point in time, you will lose important players because of injury or illness, or you're resting them. I don't think it can always be about changing the entire makeup of your batting order when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, too
Because
much
tomorrow,
changes. Yeah, too much changes when we lose a player.
if look today, Aiden got COVID. Tomorrow, hopefully it doesn't happen. But if Rasivan doesn't, something happens to him, he gets sick or he gets injured or something like that. What then? What are you going to do then? Because
Yeah.
he's a massive part of that batting lineup. Sure, we can talk about his strike rates and things like that, but he's actually scored a bulk of the runs in T20 cricket for South Africa. How
I
can
mean,
one take that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Riza is probably closer to a Rasi replacement than he is to an opening replacement, in my opinion. I think Riza can probably play that number 3 role as a backup to Rasi better than he can actually play the opening role in place of Bavuma. In my opinion, I think he's a lot better coming in at 3 Riza than he is at opening the batting. Um, Personally, but that's my opinion on what I've seen from him in the past. Werner, your thoughts on this particular? Are you happy to hear that he said that Dwayne Pretorius was just an experiment?
Yeah, I didn't feel it needed to be a 4 or 5 game experiment, to be honest. I thought after the second game, okay, you can stop trying that. Now the ball is swinging around for Boovy. Why are you bringing in Dwayne Pretorius at 3 when you could play Rossi at 3? Yeah, on that like for like thing, I would have just played Stubbs the whole series after Markram got injured, and then play him in the role that Markram would have played, to sort of make sure that the rest of the batters do the role they are going to do in the World Cup, instead of now shifting everybody, and then now we're only going to try and rectify that again in the next series if Markram is all good to go. You could have just had Rossi at 3 and then Miller at 4, and then bring Stubbs in at 5, Klaasen 6, or Klaasen 5, Stubbs 6, whatever. I didn't think it was necessary for all these changes that they did. But yeah, good to hear that we're not necessarily going to continue with Dwayne at 3 unless the situation really cries out for it. If the opposition scores 220 and you've had a poor start to the power play and you feel like Dwayne could bring the impetus, fine. But not a every game thing.
And you know what? Also, excellent point made there, Werner, because me and Aditya I've spoken about this on previous reactions to press conferences. There's a constant contradiction from Boucher, because he was speaking about wanting to keep continuity and he wants to keep consistency and all this crap, but then he does make such major changes like playing Dwayne at 3 that shifts everybody's roles out of position, and people are like, what am I supposed to do now? So like it's confusing me too, because I mean,
and Muller coming in at 6 again. I was like, before the series, I was like, at least Muller now, as that he's proven what he can do when he gets more time. So hopefully now he won't ever bat below 5 again. What do? They bring in Pretorius at 3. They bring in Klaasen ahead of Muller, and so he ends up being at 6 once more.
Yeah, like I don't understand how he's your best number 5 when you don't play Klaasen, but then you replace Klaasen, then he's not your best number 5. Like, but Klaasen doesn't make the first team, so I don't understand how that logic works. It's crazy for me when I think about it. So yeah, it's something to definitely think about and definitely talk about. And also another thing, how did they not pick up these issues with Temba earlier? Why are they only working, figuring that out now? I'm pretty sure that when he played in the World Cup against swing, and I'm pretty sure when he played against other opposition teams that swing the ball or move the ball, that he struggled too. They would have picked that up in other games, because based on what the fan base is saying, that's what they've seen from Temba, that he's been struggling for a while now. How do you only pick that up now, so close to the World Cup? I mean, that's insane. I mean, we all know Boovie's is talented, yes, but there are other players that could also do what Boovie does. It's not like there haven't been players that we faced that can move the ball like Boovie. I mean, Shami, I mean, not Shami, Shami. Mohamed Shami moves the ball like way better, like he's way better than Boovie in my opinion. So it's like it's madness in my opinion when it comes to that.
You know, he talked about Temba struggles and giving more options and things like that. And my question is that I think that's also instinctive to a certain degree, right? Like if something's not working for you, you try to get on top of a bowler by trying a bunch of different things. So, I didn't really see Temba maybe stand outside his crease a little bit to negate the swing or come down the track to hit Boovie over his head. Because in the power play, that's a very good option, right? And again, I refer you to the 2018 qualifier one of the IPL where Faf du Plessis took apart Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who was the best bowler on the night, and he found a way to score against him when the pressure was high. So I feel like there are ways to do that, but I guess I'm glad you acknowledged that Temba struggled at least.
I'm not gonna respond. I'm not in that frame of mind today. Not gonna let anybody derail me. Let's move on.
Just on the two spinners, you persisted with them.
So if you have a look at our style of play that we've played in and that's been successful in the subcontinent, it has been with our two spinners. So yeah, we did give them that sort of responsibility. I think if you look at the first couple of games, they really went after them and targeted them. We felt that we had the six bowlers, and then the conditions sort of changed as well as we went to sort of games 3, 4, where there was maybe a thought of leaving a spinner out, but having a look at the conditions, and we got it right. I think the conditions were good. They turned for the spinners. Unfortunately, they went after them, and I think we probably got one or two balls wrong where it travelled. One or two drop catches here and there, which could have changed things up a bit as well. But that is certainly the way that the Indian team wanted to try and beat us, and that was to take our spinners on. But we felt that we had enough cover, and we felt that we really needed that six bowling option there as well. So, the last game we went in without Shama, which was a big call to make. He's been our best bowler for quite some time now, especially in those conditions. But there's a lot of rain around as well. Small field in Bangalore. My knowledge of playing in Bangalore, I played quite a few games there. The ball didn't really turn a lot. So Kesh played and obviously captain as well. And they went after him in the first over as well. So yeah, it's always tough. I mean, you go to India, you got a subcontinent, and you want to back your spinners to do a job. I think they were quite gutsy in the way that they went about things, and it obviously came off for them.
Anybody want to say anything there?
He said Kesh captaincy obviously played. That's the kind of thing that worries me. The fact that we're playing Maharaj because he's now taken over the captaincy from Temba, when Shamsi was number one in the world not too long ago. Now suddenly you have Keshav playing over Shamsi because he's the captain. That it's just something that has kind of worried me in the past, that we pick players for that reason and not their primary role, which is bowling and picking up wickets or keeping the runs down. Not saying that Keshav was worse than Shamsi in this tour. I mean, Shamsi didn't have a particularly great series, but I just didn't like the thinking behind our picking players.
Yeah,
but I
and
guess
also-
we didn't have a different captain option in the team.
Yeah, but also saying basically, Bangalore is a small ground. You're probably going to get smacked. Ultimately, that's what he's saying. He didn't say it, but that's ultimately what he's saying. He thought that Shamsi was going to get destroyed on this particular wicket. That's ultimately what I got from what he's saying. Adicho, why am I going mad?
No, you're not going mad, brother. But look, I agree with Werner, and I think that was our question even before the Sri Lanka series where Maharaj took over the captaincy, right? And sure, he's done a fantastic job. He's tactically astute, but does it work for the balance of the team? Not always, and that's a bit unfortunate. I do feel for Shamsi, uh, because let's not forget, Shamsi's got the experience of playing in Bangalore. He's played more games. He's played for the RCB, so he knows Bangalore conditions. So I feel like that could have been an advantage now that he's a better bowler than what he was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah. Another problem I have is the vice captaincy. I'm not saying that Keshav doesn't have the ability to be a captain. I'm not saying that he isn't a good captain when he captains the Dolphins. But for me, when you're picking your captain, I don't think it is a now decision only. You also need to look ahead. So they know that Temba is going to be done after the 2023 World Cup. Who are they thinking about next in line? They can't tell me that they don't have a next in line captain. What fixes all of this is if Aiden was the vice captain ultimately. If Aiden is the vice captain, but then what happened and he takes over, then you don't have to force Keshav into the team as an extra to play. You don't have to force the two spinners into a team because then you have versatility in picking with your captains. Because you're going to pick someone that must play. So I think your vice captain, your captain, ultimately have to be players that you believe must play every game, which Boucher didn't do with Bavuma is what we thought. We were like, but why is he picking Bavuma? At the beginning, when Bavuma got picked as captain, I said that actually. I don't think a lot of you guys remember me saying that. I actually said that why did Bavuma get the captaincy? I don't understand if he's not a stay. If he doesn't have a safe place in the team as a consistent starter in every match. It had to be a player for me personally that we know is going to be in every game. That's going to play majority of the games for you. They do it in football like that. They pick a captain based on how many games they'll play, probably estimated will play in the season. You're not going to pick a captain that's only going to play 15 games for you. You're going to pick a captain that's going to probably play every single game. So that's my only criticism about that. I think that they should have thought about the future and their vice captain should be the next in line captain, not just the vice captain, the second best captain in the current setup. I think it should be the future captain. That's my point of view on that.
That could have been Rassi as well, because
Possibly
he is the most consistent performer in the team, and sure, he's an organized sort of cricketer in my view. Because the one thing that we have to take into consideration is that when Temba's captaincy was announced, Aiden wasn't the T20 player that he's now become. So I think that would have put additional pressure on him. Now we can say that Aiden is a candidate for the captaincy, but at that time his T20 game had not evolved to the point that it has now. But Rassi was still performing really well, and that's why I feel like Rassi van der Dussen's name should have come up a lot more in conversations surrounding captaincy.
The reason I think they didn't go with Rassi is because he hasn't captained domestically. So whenever he was at the Lions, Temba captained him or someone else. I can't remember exactly who it was that captained Rassi when Rassi was playing domestic cricket. I think it was Stephen Cook, if I remember correctly, before he got selected into the South African side. So he's never been really a captain at domestic cricket, where Keshav Temba's captained the Lions for quite some time. Look, from a captaincy perspective, I've seen great signs in Temba, the way he brings a team together, the way he's obviously respected by his peers, all of those type of things, bringing the team together. He has a tactical nous for, I think, for knowing where to place his field, etc. Yes, some games it's not going to work. I mean, even for the best of captains, sometimes you're not going to have the game where everything gets executed exactly how you want it to, and that things are going to happen. But Temba's always been a leader within domestic cricket. He also captained the Josie Stars as well. Okay, yes, in a very terrible season for the Josie Stars. They lost every game because of very players didn't come to the party in that game. I don't even know if they were coached correctly, to be honest with you. It was chaotic. I didn't know what happened there. Enoch left such a massive gap when he left from the one year to the next. But So I think they went on that aspect of it, but still, you got a valid point there, Aditya. Because I've always seen Rassi as a potential person to be a captain. I've seen those qualities in him because he's almost like a leader in the dressing room, despite not being the captain. People look up to him. He does crazy things. I mean, I remember the one year we were in Paul, and obviously they were playing Boland, and he got stung by a bee. Uh, I don't want to do the whole Amber Heard thing. He got stung by a bee, but he continued playing. He stung by a bee. So he got continued. He continued playing. He got went off, got it treated, and he continued playing. I was standing on the side of the field chatting to him for like ages. I was like, I see, are you still gonna go play? He's like, yeah, I need to put in the effort. I need to put the effort in for my team. This is off the record stuff. I'm not actually supposed to say, but anyway, he's like, yeah, I have to put it in for my team. I don't think you'll mind me saying that, but like, yeah, we had a chat, and he was fine. He went on to play. Even though it was a little bit swollen on his neck, he still went on to go play. He scored a century in that game, in fact. So he has the leadership qualities in him, which I do get what the teacher is saying. But for me, what the biggest problem as well was that Keshav came out of nowhere, man, because it wasn't almost also like he was playing in the T20 setup. They were looking at George Linder, they were looking at Bjorn Fortuin as potential spinners for the T20 format. That's what I thought. And then all of a sudden, boom, nowhere. I'm like,
He literally captained in his debut match, if I remember correctly.
yeah, was it his debut? Yeah,
I believe that was his debut T20 series, and he captained.
Look, mad. That's madness. But I guess they're basing it on the fact that he's captain domestically. I guess I don't know. He's the only
He took over from Temba in the ODI series after Temba got injured,
Yeah.
and so they decided to just play him in the T20 series as well and let him captain there. And then suddenly leapfrogged Bjorn Fortuin and George Linder, and then George Linder totally fell away before the ODI World Cup, the T20 World Cup.
Crazy, man. Okay, let's continue.
Hi, Mark. Thanks, Sips. Hi, Mark. Just on the spinners as well, you mentioned the small fields in India and obviously India being very aggressive. How much of a factor was it also that neither of them played IPL, so they're also probably a bit rusty? And do you think bigger fields in Australia will bring the spinners into the contest even more?
Yeah, look, I think maybe being a bit rusty was one thing you can talk about. India plays spin really well. They've got their own way of playing it. We played them in albeit in one-day cricket in South Africa in conditions that really turned, and our spinners dominated. So we were almost like, this is the way to go about things. They've obviously got a bit of a different pattern that they like to play, especially to spin in T20s. So yeah, there's more of us backing our spin to do a role that they have done over the last sort of year, and that's one of the main reasons why we've got the positive results as well. So we backed them, and we weren't scared to pull one of them out, but the conditions just said this, it's going to turn. And I think if you look at their spinners, the way that they went about things, they really did come into their own in games 3 and games 4. I think we didn't have the opportunity to put their spinners under pressure because of the power plays that we had. So the starts were not ideal. If we had taken wickets in the power plays, and hopefully our spinners, landed their balls in the area, it might have been a little bit different. But that's a lot of ifs and buts. Going to Australia,
which Werner doesn't like ifs and buts.
If you have a look at the Big Bash and the records of the Big Bash, there's quite a few grounds where spinners play a major role.
Not ifs.
So yes, certainly we are looking at that. We're looking at each venue, differently. I think there's certain grounds that will be very good for maybe playing 2 spinners. There's certain grounds that maybe won't suit that. But the bigger grounds is something that can really benefit spinners as well. So we've got the options now. We've got good depth in our side with regards to all different aspects, whether it be fast bowling, seam bowling, and spin as well. So it's just about getting the right balance going into Australia, and also not too much out of all these other series because the conditions are going to be very different.
Do you think that they... Nah, that's a stupid question, actually. What's your thoughts on that, guys?
I'd love to hear the question.
I was going to say, do you think that because they're not sure that they're going to play two spinners every single time, that's why maybe the reason why they didn't pick Bjorn and George, rather Keshav as a vice captain in the team for that aspect of the game, and then in case if the leader is out, then you can put him in, whatever the case may be. But do you think it's because they already knew beforehand that George and Bjorn will probably not play as a second spinner in the team, or Keshav's not going to play in Australia? Do you think that that's maybe a thinking behind maybe bringing Keshav into the setup because they felt that they needed maybe another senior leader in the team?
Well, they knew that Keshav was a leader based on him leading the Dolphins successfully, and then obviously in that ODI series as well. But yeah, it's still not necessarily the right call in my opinion, because that sort of forces us to play two spin. Well, it seems that way at least, that it forces them to play two spinners because they want to play Shamsi because he is our premier spin bowler, but then they feel they need to play Keshav because he's the vice captain. And I feel like that's an issue because we don't necessarily need to play two spinners in every match, especially not going into Australia, where I feel it will be more balanced with two all-rounders and two pace bowlers and one spinner, and then your second spinner can then be Markram. So, yeah.
Do you agree with these thoughts on what he said about India there, Aditya? And also, I know a lot of people suggest that Boucher's maybe lying in the presser. I can't tell you. I've always known him as someone to be open and honest. And like, it's almost like if you're going to pick someone that you don't believe is good enough, that's almost like match fixing, isn't it? I don't think he'd want to do something like that. I think he honestly believes what he's saying when it comes to Temba.
He's not lying, guys. He's clearly sitting up straight.
Yeah, I don't think he's lying. Look, I think there's a certain thinking in place. Again, we can debate as to whether we agree with that or we don't. But the thinking is there in place. And I think the question for me is always going to be that if you're in Australia, you're in a position where you have to pick one spinner, who's that going to be? Is it going to be Keshav because he's vice captain? Or is it going to be Shamo because he is a better T20 bowler? I think that's the $1 million, that's a $1 million question. And
also on top of that, probably also sorry, I just got a message from Fern. We'll probably kick it. Load shedding shit. Okay. No, sorry, Aditya, just continue with what you're saying. I just think that also Keshav isn't necessarily your wicket-taking option that you think first and foremost with regards to spin. So do you see a holding type of, I wouldn't call him a holding spinner necessarily, but the style of spinner that he is, he kind of does try to put the dampening on the run scoring at the one end also. And then he takes wickets as well sometimes, yes. As a result, as a spinner, you always are in the mix for a wicket. I think even if you're a part-time spinner, you can see that too. So in T20 cricket, spinners are always in the game. But in Australia, it's going to be, I think, don't you think that Shamsi will be obviously more effective? So we might not see two spinners being played there. Probably won't.
Look, I think it depends on how the spinner needs to be used. If South Africa needs a spinner power play, then Keshav's your guy. But if you feel like you need wickets in the middle overs, then you need Shamsi, and I think that's where I would have Shamsi in the team, because I think South Africa can do a decent enough job in the power play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's move on because I don't want the load shedding to kick in and he misses one of the
our last group of questions is Fidos.
Yeah,
this
question is very important.
With Craig.
This is also part of
thanks,
that
Nathan, for your notes on the side.
Hi, Mark. Mark, can I just ask you a little bit about strike rates? I mean, with reference to Temba, but also to bigger fields, which you've alluded to. I mean, there's a lot of numbers around like 140, 150, 160 being the kind of strike rate that people want to be looking at. Is that important to you, or what do you think? Should there be a number, or just how are you judging it?
I think there should be a number. As a player, you probably want to set yourself a goal. I think people sometimes they look at that in its entirety and they go, yeah, you need to strike more. But, how do you get to striking that? Is it just giving a player one more option to score? I mean, how do you set yourself up? And I think the difference is, I mean, we've had conversations about your first 10 balls that you face. What's your goal of facing 10 balls? Is it 10 of 10 or is it 14 of 10? And straight away, I mean, just it's one boundary extra that you're looking at, and 14 and 10 is going at 140. So the margins are not as big as what people actually think that they are. It's maybe just another scoring option. There are certain conditions where you've just got to be smart and play it how you see it. Whether you're chasing a high total, whether you're chasing a low total, all those things can come into play. But I think it's just giving players the different options that they need. We did it, last year with regards to scoring all around the wickets. You would have seen reverse sweeps come in. Guys who have never lapped before, they've got the lap option now, the reverse laps as well. So yeah, I think if you give batters one or two more options just to try to take their strike rates a little bit higher than what they've probably got at the moment, it's challenging players, and it's also pushing them to become the best in the world. I think it's very necessary for player to buy into that as well. I think it's also mindset as well. Some guys are not used to going out there and taking a risk in their first 6 balls. I think we probably got undone in the third game of that, where our intent wasn't probably where it should have been. So it's a little bit of everything. But as I said, if you look at it in its entirety, you might think it's near impossible for a guy to get to a strike rate of 140 if he's at 120. But it could just be merely just adding another shot to his whole repertoire that could change that.
Come on, guys. The floor is yours, Werner, first, before load shedding.
Yeah, so what are those boundary options is the question. Because it's easy to say it's one boundary extra here and there, but we haven't really seen that from the likes of Temba or Reza Hendricks, at times Rossi as well. So the question is how it's all well and good saying it, but we need to start seeing it on the field. I always say that it's easier for a batter that naturally strikes at 150 or over his career to adjust to 120 if the situation calls for it. If wickets have fallen and you need to go just about a run a ball, than it is for a guy that's striking at 120 to suddenly try and strike at 150. Because if you look at the career strike rate of Temba, it's in T20s, it's 124. So seeing him bat at 120 in international cricket shouldn't be a surprise. Reza Hendricks' career T20 strike rate is 125, so it shouldn't be a surprise that his international strike rate is 120. But then if you look at David Miller, his career T20 strike rate is 140, and that's why his international T20 strike rate is around there. So it really, so it feels like you need to pick the players that will be able to do that role over their career. You've seen that, or you've seen a Tristan Stubbs where everybody was striking at just over 100, 120 down at St. George's on slow turning pitches, struggling. Tristan Stubbs was striking at 180. So yes, that's why they got him into the squad, but that's why he needs an opportunity to bat. So I just think that the mind need to shift a bit. But okay, so I think my power might go off at any time, but that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks a lot, Werner, for coming on the show as well, if it does go off.
Sure,
but thanks a lot for
I'll
giving
hold
me
on
insight.
if it does.
Cool, awesome. Aditya, you want to add to that?
Look, I think if we talk about Temba and Rassi specifically, who we call slow starters in the team, this is an issue that has been discussed for a long time. And if we talk about different shot options, when did they sort of evaluate this issue? Because I remember doing a presser with Rassi in, I think it was in December 2020, ahead of the England tour, where he said that one of the conversations that he had had with Boucher was that the start of his innings needed more intensity.
Mhm.
And what we're seeing now is that it's exactly the same.
He
If
said the
anything,
same
it's
thing in his
gotten
post
worse.
match. He said the same thing in his post match interview actually that we have on
Yeah.
the channel when he scored that
Yeah.
match winning knock. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's still my question, right? Because he said the exact same thing in 2020, December 2020. Um, so honestly, at this point, I don't know what else I could say. Um, but I agree with Bernard. You know, it's that if your strike rate is 124 in domestic cricket, then it's going to be somewhere in that area in international cricket also. It's not suddenly going to be 150. It's not going to suddenly start smacking it like Andre Russell. But yeah, it's definitely a
What do you
question worth asking.
what do you guys think about us moving towards? Because I don't. It's starting to make me start to think about if whether Boucher knows and understands T20 cricket the way he's supposed to as a coach. Because if he as a player didn't understand, he didn't. I mean, his strike rate is weak as a T20 player. He might have played in all those places and just got selected, but his strike rate is not that great in T20 cricket. And if you look at him, he's actually worse than Bavuma on the list in international cricket for South Africa. So when you look at strike rates, so I know it's a different time and all of those things, but should we maybe think of it in this way that maybe Mark Boucher should take over as a test coach only and then have a separate coach for maybe the limited overs cricket, like England's doing. Maybe that's a way to go then, because I mean T20 is evolving, it's getting more and more and more technical, more difficult, more there's more things involved it's getting more and more technical as we go along. So it's getting more complicated to play the game. So having a coach and having people involved that actually understand the T20 game and on these type of things might be better for South Africa, I think, going forward, perhaps. Um, but I don't know. Now that we have three different types of, we have a Test Championship, which is also something major as well, which is almost like your World Cup in Test cricket. It's not like your your Test coach is not going to get any accolades, for winning. And if he's earning, I don't know how much he's earning, but they could probably split that between the two, the two coaches. Test is obviously you're longer away from your family, etc. So it's only fair that they get maybe a similar type of pay or slightly more than maybe a limited overs coach, or the same. I think same because you're doing two formats. But what's your thoughts on that? Maybe because sometimes it feels like Boucher's maybe not under. He doesn't have that proactive mindset like other coaches that have coached in the IPL or have coached T20 cricket before, and taken teams to T20 trophies. With I think with the Titans though, I think he might have won a T20. I think he might have won a T20 competition actually with the Titans, to be honest. Also he took the Spartans to a final. So maybe I'm wrong in what I'm thinking. But for some of the stuff that he says, it gives me that little trigger of maybe thinking, hey, well, why don't we maybe think that for South Africa going forward? It's not like we're going to be losing money because you'll be splitting the salary that Boucher's getting basically, or your test coach is getting, or your all format coach is getting, and then you split it between two.
But why would he ever agree to that? It's like
It's not about what he wants.
But then, I mean, he'll quit, and you'll be left finding two other coaches. So that's fine. I mean, if that's what South Africa wants, that's fine. But
I
it's one
think
of those
Boucher would
things
enjoy
where-
Test cricket more. To be fair, I think
Look, I think the two coach strategy. The two coach strategy is still new, right? It's never been done before, and even now, at the moment, it's the one coach whose work is being focused on, and that's Brendan McCullum. The one day cricket, we still have to sort of get into that, right? Because sure, England just played a game against the Netherlands that was just unbelievable, but it's been less than a month since the two coaches have probably worked together for the England team, and I think we need more time to evaluate how that's going to work, because I think there are plenty of coaches around the world who wouldn't want to sort of share that responsibility, right? Like Andrew McDonald. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, you can finish your thought.
Andrew McDonald, for example, Australian coach now, he was completely opposed to the idea of splitting the coaching role, whereas others like Darren Lehman or some of the others, were for it. So I don't know. That question is still to be answered. But having said that, with respect to Boucher, I feel like, once you've been general, it's very difficult to be soldier again.
Yeah, I feel like it's more a team thing than it is a coach thing. I always thought that Boucher is a naturally attacking type of personality. He has a win at all costs type of mentality, and it just feels like maybe we don't have the right players in the right places necessarily at the top order to really have that brand of cricket, because you need to be able to really attack the power play, and we're not doing that currently, and that's holding us back. But we also need to remember that before that, the third match in this series, we had won 13 out of our last 14 T20 matches. So it's not like we're terrible and like everything has now gone down the drain suddenly. And I do think it will make a major difference once Aiden Markram comes back into the team, because he was one of our forefront leaders in this batting lineup. He was one of the main reasons why we did so well in the T20 World Cup and in the series before that. So I don't think all is lost right now, but it just changes here and there. I would have better backups. Like I said, I'd rather have somebody like a Riley Rousseau instead of Reza Hendricks to come in when necessary. Make sure that you don't always have to play two spinners. It's tiny stuff like that. I don't think we're that far off. Maybe one or two positions, but I don't think the world is ending right now.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't necessarily like the two coach split, because I feel that an environment needs to be built across formats. Because a lot of the time, those players are bleeding into other formats. You very seldomly do you have completely different teams in T20, completely different to ODIs, completely different to tests. There is some bleeding over. So I would like a holistic culture and within the camp. So I do like the one coach method. But yeah, very interesting points that you made there, Werner. And I do believe that they need to have like for like replacements, though. In like you said, in the reserves, you can't be having, you can't be having a slower batter replace a faster batter or a guy with a higher strike rate. It makes no logical sense. You're going to throw out your whole entire system of the style that you want to play, and the game plan gets thrown out by that completely. You can't have a situation, because what happens if you've planned for a specific match and someone pulls up in the warm-up and all you have on the bench is Reza Hendricks, then we're going to be in big shit, because you're going to have, and when he pulls out, like what happened in the World Cup, luckily we got over the line in that match, to be honest, and we got lucky in that match. So it's weird that we select the way we do them, because I've been one of the guys that have been saying it for years, that I want to see youngsters brought into the setup a lot sooner so that we can plan for the future, because we don't do that enough. We pick experience. That takes precedent over everything else at the moment, I feel. We don't necessarily give youngsters opportunities in the Proteas setup. It didn't happen back then when Boucher was playing. It doesn't happen now. It was an exception with Graeme Smith, an exception. Because I mean, Graeme Smith was doing crazy things here in domestic cricket, for crazy things, and he was captaining his local team too. So it's mind blowing. There's certain things that are just mind blowing. Like when we know that when players get to a certain age, for example, we could have planned for AB, for the retirement of AB, Dale Steyn, Amla, all of that we could have planned beforehand. Bavin, I know probably has some load shedding now, but we could have planned for all of that beforehand. I mean, even with regards to Janneman, I thought that Janneman needed to be Janneman, all the talent in the world. He was up powerful batter. Someone needed to take him and work on him with regards to his issues against spin early on already. You know what I mean? Like, so that he can ease that out. So it's madness. It's madness. Complete madness. Let's move on. We're getting towards the end of it.
Hi, Mark. Sbu here, Sport 24. I just wanted to find out what's the latest with Captain Temba's injury. Will he make it in time for your tour to the UK?
Okay, I'm going to skip that because I got an update for you from that from CSA directly. Try and find it quickly. Temba had an appointment for a scan this morning, and an update will be given on him as soon as possible. So we're waiting we're still waiting on the update on him. So we're going to skip that one.
Before our one-day international.
Okay,
into the mind frame of being aggressive, and is that a difficult thing to change in some cases?
Yeah, I'd almost go 80-20. So you need to.
There was the question that was asked is, I think it's mental and technical. The split between the two, which is more important.
Have the technical know-how on how to play a shot and have an option. I think your mindset's got to be like, well, I've got to try and move my strike rate up a bit. So, I've got to be open to that. And once you get the confidence of maybe adding that extra shot to your batting or extra ball to your bowling, it works in both departments. I think it's having the mindset to go out there and really trust it. As a coaching team and as our philosophy sits, we want to be smart. You don't want to just go out there and play maverick cricket. I think it's been smart. I think we've done really well with regards to that as well. And we have conversations after every game on how we can get better, not only from a technical, but from a mindset position as well. So I just think in the one game, we maybe slipped up a bit where we went out and almost, didn't want to pull the trigger and put their bowlers under pressure. And I think that's where we did have a meeting about it and we spoke about it. The next game, we sort of went out there in game 4, we knew what we had to do. We had to chase 170. They probably had about 30 runs too many in that second game. And the wicket was a bit up and down. So I think the chat was more about let's go out playing our new way rather than going back to our default selves that we maybe were guilty of a year or so ago. So it was just one game that the guys really just needed to have a chat amongst themselves and say, listen, let's commit to the new philosophy. So I've got no doubt that going forward, we'll learn from that one little mistake that we maybe made and get into the right mindset going forward. I mean, ultimately, you're not going to win World Cups with a mindset where you're tentative. You've got to go out there and play. And I think there's been other teams in the world that India showed us as well, the way that they play. England, the way that they play. That's really the way forward going, especially in the short division of the game.
But he took the job 2 years ago. Like, how can we still be playing like that? I don't get. I'm sorry. Guys, I don't agree with that. What is he saying here?
I do like the term maverick cricket. I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice Top Gun reference there. Yeah, look, I think, again, but we've been talking about the default versus the new philosophy, right? Tentative cricket versus that aggressive cricket. The question boils down to personnel. How many individuals in your batting lineup can sort of naturally be aggressive?
Okay, so natural is a very important word there that I had to learn, that I had to think about because,
like how many Joss Butlers do you have in the team? How many Dinesh Kartiks? Or, Rishabh Pant didn't perform, but he's a powerful cricketer.
Yeah.
So I feel like natural is like it's not. I don't know. Look, Rasivandra Dosan can hit it long and far, but he takes time to get there.
Yeah.
So he's somewhere in between. But at the moment, if the guy who's doing it consistently is only David Miller, They've basically got one guy whose game is consistent with the new philosophy.
Yeah, I think the new philosophy has helped David Miller a lot in international. He's a lot more consistent internationally now because of that new philosophy. And as soon as he tries to go back into his shell, that's when he loses his wicket. So the instructions need to be clear. Like Neo Falani said on the show, the coach needs to tell them, go out there and play with that style, play with freedom. Don't worry about how much you scored and just go out there and enjoy yourself. The mentality is going to have to be there for them to do that. Whether they can force Riza and force Temba to do that we're going to have to wait and see if we can really change that. If we can do that, if Boucher can get Temba to start scoring more fluently in the power play, I do agree, though. I do have to say, though, like he does need a little bit more opportunities to open. He's only opened, I think, 14, 16 times or something like that. So I think he does need more opportunities to open, yes, but do we have the patience to do that? I mean, if we have an opener available that can strike, we need to then start selecting them. But I think, like I said on the previous show, I think for it now, changing things is going to be very disruptive. So for me, I think give it this T20, this 2020 World Cup now in Australia. Give them till then. If they haven't shown that signs of playing that type of cricket, I'm not willing to wait another 2 years for 35-year-olds to find a way to score freely. I'm over that.
Thanks.
And finally, Ken.
Thanks, Sips. Mark, you mentioned those extra T20s over and above the 5 that are on the schedule. Can you tell us what those are?
Well, they are in India. So, and also I'm counting the games, the warm-up games in Australia. So I think that's probably where you get your best information, is when you go out there and actually play with the squad. We also got to understand, guys, that there is a World Cup squad coming up now, and some of the players are obviously concerned whether they're going to be in that squad. I mean, it's always tough times for players just before the announcement of a World Cup team, and that's no different for this one as well. So I think once you get your squad together and you have the sooner the better. You have that squad together, and then the guys can go out there and just really buy into the way that you want to play. So that World Cup, those World Cup games that we do go and play, that's invaluable knowledge that we'll pick up there, because everyone will feel comfortable. They'll understand what their roles are, and then you can really get settled with your starting 11.
Okay, that's it. I'm gonna end that now. How do I remove this now? What the hell is going on here now? Everything's slow. My computer's almost dying as well, guys. So I'm going to remove that from studio and make sure that I don't remove our teacher. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, a lot was said. I think there's too many inconsistencies. This press conference sounded like we're playing in the first T20 World Cup since Boucher took over. It doesn't sound like it's the second in a row after a year. So I was hoping that we're going to see, boom, okay, T20 World Cup, make it to the semifinals. Or nearly make it to the semifinals, and then from there build. But it didn't seem that way. It seemed like we took a couple of steps back. Final words from you, Aditya, before we say bye to the fans?
Well, I'm just waiting to see South Africa play in the UK now. I think that'll be an interesting series, and if there's one thing that I think will be tested, it is adaptability, because that's going to be important for the team that goes to Australia for the World Cup. So yeah, interesting times. But I guess this tour is done and dusted, and whatever we say about it now, it's done, right?
Yeah, guys. So thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I can't take any comments or anything right now as well, size. I'm very sorry. You're gonna have to wait for the Q&A show that we do on Friday, or tomorrow when we do another show. But my battery's about to die. My whole computer's slowing down. So yeah, get involved with the Patreon account, of course, if you want me to get me a new computer. Get involved with the Patreon account. Also, the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine. Every issue is 100% free, straight to inbox every single month. Your link is in the description as well. thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. Wow, my whole computer's shutting down. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you guys very soon. Yeah, take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Teacher, don't leave yet until I've put on the outro video, because I don't know what's going on. My computer's stucking, so I just need to make sure I can exit this thing. So you're gonna be on screen for a little while by yourself. Just hold on there and talk to the fans a little bit.
Hi guys. Yeah, I see you, Dex. South Africa scored 400 plus scores in 2015 alone. It's a question of personnel, isn't it? They had the people to do it. You know, Hash was in prime form. You know, Quinny was striking it well and consistently. There was Faf was, Mr. Consistent. AB was great. Riley Rousseau was there. David Miller was there. That's a pretty strong team, right? They just don't have that personnel right now, and yeah, it's not really working at the moment. But yeah, I think ultimately there has to be some sort of evolution in the approach of the team, right? Because as much as we talk about wanting to play like England or wanting to play like Australia, you need to have the personnel to be able to do that. England wouldn't be able to play like England if Alistair Cook was opening the batting. England are only able to play like that because there's Jason Roy, there's Joe Butler, there's Bairstow, there's Moeen Ali. So, personnel matters. We can talk about approach, but selection is a key part of that.
Guys, peace. Thanks a lot, Aditya. Thanks to the fans. We'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Take care, everybody. I finally got everything to work. Peace.